All right. Well, hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to something that we're calling Conversations with Friends. This is just an opportunity to lean in, to use Pastor Jeff's language, and learn from each other. And so this is my friend Jason. Jason, how you doing?
Good, man. Yourself?
Awesome. I'm doing great.
Excellent.
And just for everybody that's watching, you work at Ada Bible Church.
I do.
Tell
yes.
us, what do you do? How long you've been here?
Yes, I have the honor and privilege of serving as the East Paris campus pastor. I've been here at Ada for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in November.
Awesome.
And I just absolutely love my job.
Nice, nice. So Jason and I we know each other a little bit. Like we've done a couple breakfasts at Anna's house,
Yes.
which is a fantastic place.
We do enjoy our time.
Yeah, that's right. But I wouldn't say I really know you.
Right.
And
right.
so would it be cool if I asked you a bunch of questions and you feel free to fire them back at me as well,
That'd
and
be good, man.
Hopefully this will just be helpful for everybody. So I got my list of questions here on actually your iPad that I stole from you. Sorry about that.
Right.
But let's start with this. Where'd you grow up? What was that like?
Yeah. Originally grew up, born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah. Born in 1980.
That's
Yeah.
close to the year that I was born. We don't even say what
that.
direction.
So we could talk about 1980 and now 2020.
You
40 years old.
You celebrated your 40th birthday in quarantine.
I did. 2020 has not been a good year.
No, it's not. Oh, okay.
So yeah. Spent, the first, 18 years of my life in Chattanooga.
Okay.
And then went to Carson Newman College. Now it's Carson Newman University for college. And that was in Jefferson City, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Chattanooga, it's not Grand Rapids.
Not Grand Rapids.
But you've lived in Grand Rapids. You've lived in Michigan for a few years.
Right. It had been about 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have lived in Grand Rapids almost my entire life.
Wow.
So help me understand, how's Chattanooga, or where you grew up in Chattanooga, how's that different? How's it similar to Grand Rapids?
That's a very, very good question. I was born in the city where I knew maybe 3 or 4 white people.
Really?
Yes. I grew up, early part of the years of my life, just around blacks. Mm-hmm. I mean, I everywhere you would see, neighbors, whoever you run into at the grocery store, for the most part, were blacks. Up until we moved to the suburbs when I was 14 years old. And that was a cultural shock in the sense of neighbors, but as we'll get into it, we spent the first couple of years in a city school, and then moved to the suburbs to attend school.
Okay.
So we'll get in more to that later.
Well, for perspective, you said 97%, or just a few people were white. And for me, growing up in Caledonia, at that time anyway, just dead opposite.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you grew up.
Well, I grew up in Caledonia. It was still pretty small back then. Mm-hmm. I grew up across the street from a farmer's elevator right in the town. And so it felt rural compared to what it's like now. And, from a racial perspective, I didn't know any blacks. I didn't know, very few minorities in my school at all. Mm-hmm. And so I went to college in Chicago, which is very diverse. And so I think that was my first experience with diversity, and interacting with people of different perspective than me.
Yeah. So. Very cool.
But let's go back to Chattanooga. It sounds way more interesting than Caledonia. Just,
yes, it
from
is.
my perspective.
It definitely is.
That hurts. Tell me about your family, your parents.
Yeah. Parents, wow. I think about my mom, I think about my dad. They got divorced when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, divorced when I was 2 years old. Lived with my mom. My mom did the heavy lifting when it comes to raising me and my brother. But my dad was 100% in the picture.
Okay.
100% in the picture. Parents were both born in 1943.
Wow.
My father was born in New York, born and raised.
In the city?
In the city.
Okay.
Yep. And my mom, Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So 1943, that's during World War II. Mm-hmm. They were kids in the 50s. Mm-hmm. They were teenagers in the 60s. So you probably heard some stories.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I think of stories from my mom. Now my mom Again, born and raised in Memphis, went to college in Lane, Tennessee, Lane College. She remembers vividly, I mean, we've had these stories, remembers vividly when Martin Luther King was shot. And she made it a point to go downtown, where everybody was going. And I said to her, just with this just absolute shock, why in the world are you going downtown? She looks at me, she's so serious too. Baby, you had to go. We all had to go. So that was just riveting stories through that.
Yeah.
And hearing that from my father's perspective as well. He's in New York and it's different, but so much of it is the same. It was obviously tragic for the country, but especially tragic for my parents and no doubt for blacks all over. So it was a difficult time. And I could tell you more stories if you want that, but I mean, it was hard. It was hard. But I think of, I'll tell you a story.
Yeah, it's helpful for me. Yeah.
I think of hearing stories from my father about those times, he called it the Jim Crow era. He said it was not uncommon to see a black man hanging from a tree. I say that it was not uncommon because if you did not measure up to what a white person thought you should do, if you were to buck the system, there were consequences to that. And sometimes those consequences meant you losing your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the childhood that your dad had.
That's it, man. My mom as well.
So, what kind of conversations did you have with your dad? I mean, based on what he grew up with.
Yeah. See, my parents came to Christ later in life. So the thought of being forgiveness and grace-oriented, that didn't come later on in life. So conversations growing up were them telling stories about how I should not trust white people. And they would tell stories on why I should not trust white people. So I remember those lessons being threaded within conversations. But I do remember when I was probably 9, 10 years old, things started to change. Of course, living with my mom, her story started to shift. She started mentioning grace more often. And I was like, ooh, something's different about my mom. That's where she found the Lord.
Okay.
That's where she found the Lord. So prior to that, listening to my parents talk about not being able to trust white people, the neighborhood I grew up in, we had a few white people that we would run with every now and then. But one particular guy by the name of Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, he, white guy, he's probably the guy I've been friends with the longest.
Yeah.
We're still friends today. He didn't fit what my parents were saying about white people.
He broke the mold.
Yeah, he broke the mold, exactly. So it came to a place where I felt conflicted listening to parents saying things, but then experiencing something different. But I'm kind of got off on tangent. We're talking about more than that, more than just what my parents have taught me. But that kind of starts the early years.
Okay. Yeah. Well, perspective differences. You know, again, Chattanooga, Caledonia.
Yeah.
You knew very few white people. I knew very few black people. And just the way family, the way the community that you're raised in talks about the other race.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I recognize now it creates an expectation. I don't know exactly what to call it.
No, that's good, man.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm interested in your best friend, Kevin.
Yeah.
So he doesn't fit with what your parents are describing before their perspective begins to change with grace, and coming to faith. What did that conversation do in your life, or that relationship with Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. Originally, it didn't make sense to me. I just knew, hearing stories from my parents, but just knew and experienced in Kevin, he was cool people. Like I wanted to hang out with him. His father took me in right away in the sense of allowing me to hang out with his son. He had an older sister. She took me in right away. And it just didn't fit the narrative that I was given by my parents. So originally I was conflicted by it. But I eventually released that and said, you know what? This Kevin is a good guy. We like to play video games together.
Yeah.
Basketball, football, we did it all together. And it just He's like, this is my best friend. This is who I'm going to run with. And it's almost like when I made that decision, and I don't know if it was consciously or subconsciously, it was like a barrier that fell down. And then we became even tighter through that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I could, I want to ask you a question, and about your parents and conversations that you had in light of what they experienced.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked this question is I watched something on Instagram recently. Priscilla Shire, you know who that is. Her dad is Tony Evans, who is a pretty famous black pastor. And she shared this video in the basement, I don't know whose house, maybe hers, maybe. And Tony is talking to his grandsons about what you do if you get pulled over by the police. And I mean, I feel a little uncomfortable even asking you this question, but in light of everything that's been happening, I gotta imagine that these kind of conversations are something that you grew up with.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember having conversations with my father. He always told me that policewomen are a place, they are authority, and those authorities should be respected at all times. That was something that was clearly laid out to me. He said, but sometimes, when you get pulled over, this is how you should conduct yourself. Is you get pulled over, you put your hands on the wheel, and you don't move them. As they walk up, they will say, license and registration, please, or do you know why I pulled you over? You answer them, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. When they ask for that license or your registration, you tell them what you're going to do before you do it. I'm going to get my registration. It is in my glove compartment. I'm going to reach for my registration and move ever so slowly. I've had that conversation. I'm going to get my wallet. It's in my back pocket. I'm going to get it right now. I'm going to move slowly. These are things, and that I had to practice in front of my father.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Because this was so important to us, to him especially. And I'm 12 years old listening to this stuff. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then obviously growing up and experiencing others deal with this, and just life experience period, I started to see, okay, this is the reason why. So, I mean, you asked me that question. Did you have this type of conversation with your father?
I mean, that's what's going through my head right now. I mean, my dad taught me how to drive early, and we talked about cars, and we talked about all kinds of things, fixing the car, I don't think I ever had a conversation with him about what you do, because, I mean, I'm realizing now I didn't need to. This
reminds me as well of during that time. I think as a young boy, we know this about me. I'm pretty emotional. You know what I'm saying? I get a little excited about things.
Sure.
And in baseball, everything came to me through baseball. I wanted to hit a home run every single time. I wanted to hit the ball hard every single time. And when I did not do that, I got upset. To the point where I would start crying, and my dad just puts his head down, and it's embarrassing. It could be embarrassing. It'd be embarrassing.
Yeah.
But after, my dad would never talk to me during the game. He'd always wait to the end.
Yeah.
And he would squat down and look at me with a smile and says, son, what controls your body? Then my response would be, well, my mind. He says, what happens when you lose control of your mind? He says, you lose control of your body. I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you're exactly right. Big guy, as he used to call me. You've got to learn to control your emotions. And it's interesting how something as simple as within the baseball game, how that applies to my life, even today. And as I grew older, especially talking about driving and stuff, he said, you've got to learn to control your emotions. Because if you can control your emotions, it could lead to you saving your life.
Wow.
But if you lose control of your emotions, it can lead to someone else taking your life. I mean, that right there is the most powerful lesson that I've ever been taught.
Wow. Two things that strike me. One, it sounds like you had a great dad.
Be cool people. Yeah.
Yeah. And secondly, there's just a level of that I just haven't had to experience.
Yeah.
So your parents came to faith later, which means that when you were a kid, you probably didn't go to church, or maybe you did
We
sporadically.
did, sporadically,
Okay.
yeah. I remember far back as I can remember, 5, 6 years old, going to church every now and then, saying to my mom, asking us on a Sunday, hey, you going to go to church? Nope. And then we wouldn't go to church. And then again, around that 9, 10, 11-year-old time period, we're going to church.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you could definitely tell the shift in things when she found the Lord.
Yeah. So how, like, you're a pastor,
Yeah, man.
you know, and there was a phase in your life where you didn't want to go to church.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. So realizing what happened, seeing what happened in my mom, that change, it got me interested. Started asking some really good questions. My mom, just like she always has, showed me so much grace and so much patience during that time. So I'm asking the tough questions. If God's real, then why this? And if he cares for us, why does he allow this? Then it came to a place where at 12 years old, I came to a believing faith in God and got baptized.
Okay.
But if I look back on that time, I think I was led more by the fear of hell than the love of Christ.
Yeah.
So I, from 12 years old, started to read my Bible on a regular basis, started to try to figure things out. It's just things weren't clicking. Things started to click when I made a decision to play football for the very first time as an incoming freshman in high school. So I'm 14 years old.
Okay.
And I meet the defensive back coach. His name is Julian Kaufman. And he taught me through Bible studies that we would have every Monday after practice, because he was my ride home. You know?
And now we're having Bible study.
Exactly. So people grow up in the church, they remember their youth pastor.
Yeah.
They played a pivotal role. That cat was my youth pastor.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love, as I think about how God has directed me through life, a white man. God used a white man to save my life.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So I am just so thankful for him. I talk to him now, even probably 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
Love keeping up with him, love his family. So it's just been exciting, man.
Yeah.
I just greatly appreciate him, his heart, and greatly appreciate him being obedient to God.
So I don't know you super well, but one thing I do remember that you told me is football became a big part of your life.
Yeah.
So where did that take you?
Football took me, played 3 years in high school, did not play my junior year because I wanted to focus in on baseball.
Really?
Yes, because I played baseball all the way up since 5 years old. But football, first year freshman, running around scared, scored a few touchdowns.
Mostly because you were scared.
Well, you know what?
I got to go fast. I got to get out of here.
I mean, you're 5'8", 135 pounds.
Yeah.
On varsity, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. But got pretty good at football and received a full athletic scholarship to play at Carson Newman College.
Nice.
In Jefferson City, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And loved those years. Only played 1 year. It's probably the biggest mistake of my life.
Really?
Quitting football.
Oh, quitting.
Yeah,
Okay.
quitting football. But it brought me to Carson Newman. Yeah.
And you met some important people there.
You know what? I did. I met my wife there.
Yeah, let's
And
talk about her.
Yeah, dude, I cherish that time. In college. Megan Elizabeth Tibby at the time, now Megan Elizabeth Ross, is by far my favorite person. By far my favorite person.
It's probably good. Yeah.
It is good. Yeah, we've been married almost 16 years. I just love her to death. My beautiful white wife.
Okay, so here we are.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, I met my wife in college also. I was not on a full athletic scholarship, although I did play a college sport.
Yes, you did.
Volleyball, which is like football, volleyball, I didn't. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, my wife is also white.
Okay.
But I've never experienced interracial marriage. So if you're willing, I mean,
I'd love to.
What's that been like?
It is interesting having two different cultures come together. My wife has always shown me grace. I do my absolute best to show her grace. We have had a number of different conversations about anything and everything under the sun. Our marriage is no different than your marriage. We have 3 kids. You have 28, five kids. So, it feels like 28 sometimes, I'm sure.
Oh, there are days, yeah, for sure.
But there are the topics that we talk about, probably no different from a lot of topics you talk about. But how we grew up and seeing the contrast in that, it's very interesting. It really is.
I bet. I mean, anything come to mind that's like you found out, wow, we look at the world totally different. Let
me think. I've always appreciated my in-laws. From day one, I'm sure my wife told them that, hey, I'm dating a black guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, I hope they took it well. I think they took it well because I know they love me to death now.
Okay.
Love me. My mother-in-law, she's crazy about it. You know what I'm saying? But I just greatly appreciate them. I love the questions that they ask. I think they have always come into our relationship, especially early on, with hands open and asking a lot of questions. And they, I think early on it's, can we ask you a question? I'm like, I'm going to eventually call you mom and dad. Yeah, you can ask me questions, So, and it just thoroughly enjoyed the conversations I've had with them. And listening and listening how Megan grew up, I think of her parents have been married the entire time. Yeah. I think it's 40 plus years.
Wow. Yeah.
I think of obviously contrast, my parents got divorced when I was 2. Mm-hmm. Neither of her parents actually have a college degree. Both of my parents have college degrees. Just seeing
stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly, broken. Love that. Yeah, so there are so many. She's the oldest of 5. I'm the youngest of just 2, just me and my brother.
Yeah.
So just seeing and experiencing how she grew up, and then us, having conversations on how I grew up, it's really, really fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really fun to talk about.
So you mentioned their approach was just open hands, asking a lot of questions. So there are not very many black staff at Ada Bible Church.
Yeah.
And so you get asked a lot of questions. Does it bother you?
You know what? I think of how God has created me and allowed me the experiences that I've experienced. I had a mom that would tell me all the time, you can do anything you put your mind to. And when my mom said it, I believed it. My mom would tell me things like, the only reason people hurt you is because you allow them to hurt you. Do not allow them to hurt you. If she said that, I believed that. And as I grow up, and I think of first going to the suburban school, still living in the city, but still going into school, there are a lot of things I wrestled with and struggled with. God has guided me through all those things. The fact that I married a white woman, and how God has gifted me her, because my wife is a true gift. Aaron, because of God, I'm built for this, man. So to answer that question, no, I don't get tired of those questions. Not at all.
So you feel like God has shaped your life and given you the experience and the people to put you in the spot that you're in.
That's it. Absolutely.
For what purpose?
Holy smokes. Holy smokes. The desire for us, you mentioned it within a prayer, is unity. What does it look like for the church to lead in the bringing us together, us being all shades, all people of colors, white people, red people, whoever the case may be, bring us all together in unity. What does it look like for that? And as I've come to know Christ and love him and thank him and do my absolute best to be obedient to what he has called me to do, what does unity look like? That's been my life's question. What does unity look like? And really want to jump into that. Yeah.
That's a great purpose.
Yeah.
So can I ask you about your family a little bit? You got 3 kids.
3 kids, yep.
And I'm just kind of putting myself in your shoes a little bit. With everything that has been happening over the last couple months, racially in our country. You got, how do you engage your kids in conversation? Like what kind of stuff are you talking about? I can't imagine that's been easy.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. It's amazing how racial tensions affect both your professional life as well as your personal life. We got 3 kids. Journey, she's 13. She'll be 14 in November. Beautiful. Jalea, she's 11 years old. Beautiful. And then our son Jericho is 9. He's a handsome young man. Looks like his dad. I just love him to death. And I think we consciously, me and my wife, made a decision to drip information to them, opposed to just dump the whole bucket on them.
Yeah.
Because they're all very sensitive. Well, the first, Journey's very sensitive. Jericho's very sensitive. Jalea, she is mentally and physically tough.
Oh.
We could give it to her. She'd be like, okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
But what we do in our household is, you may be victimized, but you're never supposed to be viewed as the victim. Take on that role. Here's the reason. Here's what I mean by that: is you don't allow people to hurt your feelings. You don't allow people to get under your skin. These are things that we are teaching our kids, and it's in preparation of something much bigger that could happen. We don't know for sure, but we want to make sure that we prepare them. So they're hearing things about George Floyd. Yeah. They're seeing mom and dad watching the TV. They hear mom and dad having very animated conversations. And I remember my wife, it was on a Sunday night, we said, okay, it's probably time to talk to them a little bit about it. So we presented this to them. It was a conversation that was good. We allowed them to ask questions. And I think they're still kind of processing things. But our role in the teaching them is that everybody is made in the image of God. Mm-hmm. We are to love everyone. You are my beautiful kids, that you are half black and half white. That means you're both. That means you're very, very special. It's like, you're immensely a lot of special to us, but you're very, very special in that. And with that will come questions. Please always be able to ask mom or dad those questions. We want to be able to walk you through this time. And they said, okay, and went back to playing video games. So, yeah.
Because they're kids.
Because they're kids, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, I think of, my kids are not growing up the way I grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, they are growing up in the white man's world. And I'm thankful for that. Because I think every parent desires that their kids grow up better than they did. So my kids' life probably looks a lot similar to my wife's life. Wow. It looks like nothing of my life. And I'm grateful for that.
Something I want to ask you. So I grew up, pretty much surrounded by white people. Never thinking that I had any ounce of racism.
Yeah.
And that Grand Rapids, not a racist place, It's fair, equitable. I wouldn't use those words as a kid, but that's just what I thought. And I don't want to put you in a weird spot, but is that accurate? In your experience?
Yeah.
I mean, my eyes are being opened a little bit more, and I'm, through more interactions with people different than me, I'm seeing things differently. But maybe for people in our congregation or other people that are watching, I mean, what is it like to live in Grand Rapids?
Where do I start here? Yeah, very, very good question. I think we mentioned the Jim Crow era, and I think racism was more overt.
Okay.
You could see it; it was right in front of your face.
In front of you.
You could walk down the street and you could just really feel it and see it for yourself. Now racism is more covert. You find it in systems and processes and things. So Grand Rapids is interesting. You can walk down the street and see a person of color. You can walk down the street and see a white person, and a lot of them will say, "Hey, good morning," or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But then sometimes you can walk down the side of a road, which I've experienced before, and you see a white person coming, and then they cross the road and walk on that side. Morning. I just want to make sure they see me still, because that's just how I am. But then you turn around and then you see they have walked back across the road. So now you're on the same side again, and they continue their walk. Those are things I've experienced.
Really?
Is it fear? I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And what I've noticed about Grand Rapids as well is we're segregated, man. You've got a black part of the town or the city, and you've got a white part of the city. I think of just taking a trip down Franklin. I mean, to see the differences in neighborhoods is astounding. So we are highly segregated.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, and this is my perspective.
Yeah.
I grew up in this town, spent a lot of time in this town, drove all over the city, all over West Michigan, as a teenager, and I feel like my first experience with segregation was in Chicago.
Wow, yeah.
Because I had an internship. So Moody, where I went to school, is downtown. And we had to drive through the city to get to this suburb, this nice suburb where I did a internship at a church in the suburbs. And so the drive through the city and then bang, like a street, and then all of a sudden it's beautiful, big houses. And I thought to myself, this is what it looks like. Yeah. But I didn't recognize it growing up.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't exactly know why. Maybe I was just swimming in that tank, you know, I just didn't recognize it.
It's something that has to be shown and then taught. I mean, I don't know if kids can see it. I mean, I'm sure some kids can, but I don't know if kids can see the difference between something and then ask the right questions to it. You know? So Chattanooga is very, very similar. Very similar. When I lived in the city, opposed to moving out to the suburbs, we rented a house in the city and then moved to the suburbs and lived in an apartment. That apartment's pretty nice.
Yeah?
You know? Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's very, very similar. Yeah.
So let's do two things before we wrap this up. One, I've been just firing away questions at you.
Yeah.
And so I want to give you an opportunity to even up the score.
Right.
And then secondly, I would love for you to just be able to share, and you've done a little bit of this already, but just what's your hope, what's your dream for Ada Bible Church moving forward, based on what we're learning right now and just the church that we could be. So maybe those two things, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so we talked about it just a little bit. I'd love for you to elaborate. What's it like being a white man?
What's it like being a white man? Well, I've never had to, until recently, wrestle with that question, And I've been thinking about this actually, because it's comfortable. Not for every white person, but I've always had what I needed, an opportunity, and I think this is important, and we've talked about this before. For me growing up, if I worked hard, if I put in the effort in school, sports, whatever, there was usually opportunity on the other side. And so from that standpoint, it was like downhill. You know what I mean? And I, if I wanted to, I could do well at school. I could do well-ish at sports, And so it's always felt kind of comfortable. And I think the challenge that I'm wrestling with now is that I could just remain comfortable and just sort of put this whole conversation over there and just not look at it and continue to be comfortable, because it's not my problem.
Yeah. That's interesting. You use that word a lot, comfortable. Yeah. And within my spirit, I can't use the word comfortable when it comes to being a black man in America. You mentioned two words that really stuck out: being comfortable, and then you mentioned opportunities. As a black person, I would imagine majority of us, because I can't speak for all black people, but the majority of us don't feel comfortable. We are proud, but feeling comfortable is not something that we can say we do on a regular basis. And then the opportunities word. That's what I want to change. I mean, we kind of go into what I hope for Ada Bible Church, especially our East Paris campuses to be, is I want us to be a bridge building church where we provide people of color those opportunities. I think about things that my parents taught me. It was a strong work ethic. It's like, you will work your tail off. In that period, that's what we do. My mom. Your last name's Ross. That's what we do. We work our tails off, so I just still hear her saying that. But with the work ethic, I just happened to be given some opportunities. I'm so thankful for the opportunities I was given. Especially
Football. That's a big one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As a young black man, the opportunities I was given and the work ethic that I was given, that was instilled into me, here I am as a black pastor at Ada Bible Church. Now, God weaved me through this world, no doubt.
Yeah.
But so going back to what it looks like for our church going forward, you think of racial reconciliation, you think of all these big words we like to talk about. I think of racial injustice and all that what we talk about. I want our people to get to know people of color. I want them to because if we see things like what happened to George Floyd, and we all can say, I don't care where you are in the spectrum of belief or non-belief, of racism or not racism, you watched what happened, and that was messed up. I think all of us come to a place of saying that was messed up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So my desire is for people to see things like that and say that's messed up, but based on relationships, they can feel it, that that's messed up. Because here's the thing. You're a white man. You're in conversations that I'm not in conversations with. You're in groups of people that I'm not in groups of people with. But if we're friends, if you get to know my heart, if you get to know the people of color and other people of color's heart, then as you're in those conversations with people that make that make procedures and they're able to make different laws and stuff, if you're able to speak into that, things can change. Opportunities can happen. We think about what's, the steps of this. We all need to pray about this and ask God to reveal sin in our own heart in this issue. But the next step, when we do that, and we do that for a while, let's start to build relationships. I want Ada Bible Church to be a bridge builder in that. And here's the thing. What if we get it right? What if we do this well? It brings almost a tear to my eye thinking, may God receive the glory.
Yeah.
Because Ada Bible Church and all agreement, it changes the region. It changes the region.
Wow.
And I want to be a part of that for his glory.
That's a good vision. Dude, thank you.
Man, my pleasure, dude.
I've asked you a lot of tough questions and you've handled them well. And you don't have to do this, but I just want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that you've not said or left unsaid that you feel like, you want to have an opportunity to speak into?
I'm going to talk to my people here. Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. I mentioned earlier before, I absolutely love being a pastor at Ada Bible Church. I think about my people at East Paris. Absolutely adore you. May the questions continue to come. As mentioned, I feel like God has built me for this, that I am not in this alone. I know so many of you feel the exact same way when it comes to making sure that we become bridge builders. May you reach out to me. May we be a part of something really, really special for God's glory in this. And again, it is my honor and privilege to be a pastor at Ada Bible Church.
Dude, that's great. Yeah. Well, let's wrap up this time. I just want to encourage you to do something. If you haven't watched Pastor Jeff's sermon from, 2 weeks ago, look back, lean in, love well. I just feel like that's a really important message for our church right now. I encourage you to do that. And something that Pastor Jeff said that I can't get out of my head because I think is so good is he said near the end of that sermon, he said, I'm not where I want to be or where I should be, but I'm not stuck. And so, and that's the idea of a journey, being on a journey. That's I think what I'm trying to do here, of leaning in, of learning, of gaining perspective, of empathy. And I just want to invite you on that journey. I think it's a good journey. I think it's an important journey as Jesus followers, as a church, to just lean in, listen. I preached a sermon last weekend where I just talked about our hearts and this idea that eventually our feet follow our hearts and our actions follow our hearts. And so I think it's important for me to have a conversation with you, to hear your perspective, because it impacts my heart. And I know that in time, this journey, it's a good journey, and it's going to impact the way that I think and I act. And I relate with people, and so that's kind of the idea. So, friends, thanks for joining us for this Conversations with a Friend. Jason, dude, so appreciate you and just being open and just stepping into this role in our church. I think it's incredibly important and valuable, so thank you. So thanks for being with us, and hopefully we'll do this again, and we'll see you around.